What's good, y'all? Today we're gonna do some weird TikToks that'll make you think. This will be my fifth one, I think. But yeah, I like watching these and doing these. Some of y'all enjoy them, so I'm gonna continue doing some of these. So yeah, before we get started, if y'all would hit that like, hit that sub, man, it means a lot. Take my channel a long ways. Let's get into it. Some crazy TikToks.
Right, let's get this straight right now, right? Why has nobody told me that this thing right here is real? Explain that to me. Explain that to me. And it doesn't stop there. No, here's another one. Look at that. Clearly a woman. Clearly a woman. Don't even know. How is that thing? Explain that. It's not a natural form. And then here's another one. Just a guy, just a dude, sat there. Little penguin for you. Then a little bird kissing another bigger bird. Some sort of goat. Not quite sure. Defo a snake. Defo a snake. There's two snakes on top of each other. Then I've no idea what that is, but if they're not teeth, I don't know what are. Defo a little dinosaur. And then a hand. What is going on, people? I mean, check this out, right? Just look at this for a second, and you tell me what this could be.
I think the video's tripping me out.
I mean, I'm not sure about that one, but sus.
Someone forgot to edit the phone.
That's defo a person.
Because
That,
it ain't
I'm
my
not even
phone.
bothered.
They had me looking at my phone, though.
In the heliocentric
My
model
bad,
of
y'all. I
the
didn't mean to
cosmos,
interrupt that.
the moon revolves around the Earth 13 times per year, traveling at 2,288 miles per hour, while the Earth revolves around the Sun once per year, traveling at 67,000 miles per hour.
Yeah,
The following model and animation illustrate how this is supposed to occur.
supposed
As
to.
you can see, since the moon is revolving around the Earth, which itself is revolving around the Sun, in order to maintain its regular orbit, the moon would have to be constantly and drastically changing its speed in ways completely unaccounted for by the model.
True.
In the outer part of its orbit, the moon would have to speed up 67,000 miles per hour, in addition to its regular speed of 2,288 miles per hour, just to keep up with the Earth. So the moon would then be traveling at 69,288 miles per hour when it reached the front of the Earth. At this point, since the moon is allegedly 240,000 miles away from the Earth would catch up in just 4 hours, so the moon must continue traveling 67,000 miles per hour along Earth's trajectory, while simultaneously continuing its now perpendicular 2,288 mile per hour second trajectory. Then, as it turns to reach the inner part of its orbit, the moon must now slow back down to its original speed, allowing the Earth to pass by. Lastly, as it passes behind the Earth, the moon must once again quickly accelerate back up to nearly 70,000 miles per hour before getting left in the dust. In addition to all of this, the Sun itself is allegedly orbiting the Milky Way galaxy at 448,000 miles per hour, further compounding the problems and calculations of the heliocentric model. If this were true, then the Earth, Moon, and other planets would all have yet another set of ridiculous and impossible corkscrewing accelerations and decelerations necessary just to keep up with the Sun. And for the cherry on top, all of these calculations have been assuming perfectly circular orbits, but the actual heliocentric model claims that the Moon's orbit around the Earth's orbit around the Sun, and the Sun's orbit around the Milky Way are all elliptical, not circular, meaning there would be even more additional accelerations and decelerations to calculate depending where each one is along its elliptical path. These constant and drastic accelerations and decelerations necessitated by the heliocentric model are rarely, if ever, mentioned by globe believers, because they have always been taught that the reason we do not feel or experience any of this supposed motion is because we always travel at a constant velocity. In their own model, however, due to their elliptical orbits and revolving around other revolving bodies, the Moon, Sun, Earth, and other planets could not maintain constant velocities and would instead be regularly accelerating and decelerating. Yet, meanwhile, you can stack a house of cards, make a rock cairn, or play a game of Jenga, all without any of this motion, acceleration, and deceleration ever being felt or experienced.
That hurt my brain. Okay. They didn't teach that shit when I was in school. I never asked that shit, but nobody ever thought about it. I mean, the moon would have to speed up and slow down just to maintain its. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so. But yeah, that was weird. It hurt my brain to think about that. But you think about it, it'll hurt your brain too.
Next time. According to historical records, the first ancient civilization known to us is that of the ancient Sumerians. The Sumerians existed over 6,000 years ago, predating the Egyptians by 1,000 years. They resided in a region known as Mesopotamia, which encompasses present-day Iraq and parts of Iran, Kuwait, Syria, and Turkey. The Sumerians referred to themselves as black-headed ones, or black-headed people, and held a belief in gods known as the Anunnaki, described as children of the earth and skies. Some researchers speculate that the ancient Sumerians had a remarkable understanding of the universe, as depicted in artifacts showing the solar system with planets orbiting the sun. Adding to their intrigue are depictions of ancient handbags and bracelets. The Sumerians made groundbreaking inventions, including the wheel, alphabet, and the calendar we use today. They also developed irrigation systems for farming and established a system to measure time in seconds, minutes, and hours. Some believe that knowledge was bestowed upon them. The Sumerian civilization appears to have been one of the most advanced of its time, challenging modern explanations of our history. The discovery of 30,000 stone tablets from ancient Sumeria includes the story called the Epic of Gilgamesh, which features a great flood, an event also found in many other religious texts. Scientists link the end of the last ice age to several temperature anomalies and a significant rise in sea levels, likely caused by an asteroid impact. This catastrophic event may have led to the rapid melting of ice and widespread devastation to various species, including animals, plants, and humans. Some speculate that the tale of the Great Flood is not a mere myth, but a way of passing down knowledge through generations to ensure its survival. Recent findings, such as Göbekli Tepe in Upper Mesopotamia, dating back at least 11,600 years, have questioned the age and origins of the Sumerians. It is still uncertain where the ancient Sumerians originated from, and some theories suggest they may have migrated south into southern Mesopotamia, where the people of Göbekli Tepe became the Sumerians we know today. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, we can't pass through the Van Allen belts yet. Don't take my word for it. Take NASA's.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this can harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
I guess we're still working on solving this issue? Because I thought
We're also really pushing the boundaries in terms of where we're going forward with exploration. I think humans are naturally driven to do this, and this is really the beginning, I think, of human beings leaving low Earth orbit. I certainly plan on being around to see that.
I don't want to be a jerk because she seems like a nice girl, but newsflash, the moon is way outside low Earth orbit.
The plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SOS, which is a heavy lift rocket, something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. We only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond.
Only fly in
and
Earth
hopefully take
orbit.
humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids. There's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
Once we travel beyond low Earth orbit, the crew will be exposed to larger amounts of radiation. So we have to design both the crew protection systems and our electronic systems to withstand this radiation.
But didn't we already design those protection systems for Apollo? Why don't we just use that technology?
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back.
I doubt that.
We destroyed the technology and we can't recreate it? So nobody wrote anything down? That seems irresponsible.
Oh, you mean irresponsible, like recording over the original moon landing tapes?
Yeah, NASA did that. There are no original high-quality moon landing tapes. They were erased and reused.
Allegedly.
The footage we see of the moon landing was taken in a very strange way. NASA took a video feed from the moon and projected it onto a screen. Then TV stations pointed their cameras at the screen. The stations wanted a direct feed, but NASA refused. That's why the moon landing footage is such a mess. Anyway, the best way to protect a fragile human body from Van Allen radiation is lead shielding. But even a thin layer of lead would have made the Saturn V rocket too heavy to get off the ground. The only protection they had was a thin sheet of aluminum. But aluminum melts at about 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. The electrons in the Van Allen belts have energies of millions of volts. Now this would equate to a temperature of about 10 million degrees Kelvin. So how did NASA overcome this problem? They didn't. Instead, they called Hollywood.
Remember Planet?
Yeah, it's hard to believe in NASA and their work because they're constantly lying to us. They're constantly getting caught in lies. A lot of their stuff is faked. Why they're adding snorkels to astronaut suits is mind-blowing to me, but yeah, that was crazy. It's hard to believe in something that if they just keep lying to you, you can't believe a liar. It's like the kid that cries wolf. You just can't believe it.
Planet X?
Yes.
The search for Planet X.
Nibiru.
There were several
Nibiru.
incarnations of Planet X.
Right.
That was among them. Okay.
That was
Well,
the most wacky.
I'm talking about 100 years ago, Planet X. Okay.
Yes.
Uranus was moving weirdly. Nobody understood. Maybe there's a planet beyond it whose gravity we have yet to reckon in our equations. Boom! We discover Neptune. Wait a minute. Neptune is moving a little unfamiliarly, and this is odd. Well, we've been down that road before. There must be another planet out there, a Planet X. Let's look for it. So everybody started looking. 1993, a colleague of mine named Miles Standish. He looked at all of the data people were using to say Neptune's orbit was crooked. Then he found out that at one particular observatory, was it the gearbox or the timing mechanism, had just been cleaned or swapped out. He removed those data from his analysis and fitted data to all the other telescopes that he had for the positions of Neptune. When he did that, Planet X evaporated in that instant.
You guys know about the Solomon Islands?
The statues?
That's the Easter Islands.
Yep.
Those ones are wild too. But they're over by Australia. You got these guys, they're driving up out to these mines to check out, what you do with the mine.
Yeah.
The survey had. It had rained and the road is slick. They slip and slide and they zip off the side of the road.
It's like Dr. Seuss.
They're like, all right, how do you get the truck back on the road? We're going to walk back to town, get 30 dudes together, and we're just going to try to push the truck back on the road. They roll back into town, and as they arrive, there is something else there. There are two roughly 15-foot tall giants.
Whoa.
They had put the truck back on the road. They freak out. The 30 dudes see these very large people. They got red hair.
Oh.
They dip out. They're like afraid, obviously. They go back. The car's still there, but it had been raining.
Footprint.
And there are tons of stories in the Solomon Islands. Like, yeah, giants live in the mountains.
They said they were 13 feet tall.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Tartarians also had their own
That's
flags,
cool.
one of which was a dragon and the other an owl. There's a story behind the owl symbolism. Crazy story about Khan, who was the first emperor of Tartary. Khan was being chased after a battle and ran into a bush to hide. An owl was sitting on top of the bush and didn't fly away when it saw him. His pursuers came over and saw the owl but didn't search the bush, thinking that if Khan was there, the owl would have gotten spooked and flown away. Genghis Khan was grateful for the bird preserving his life, and the Tartarians venerated the owl ever after. Many cultures, like the Romans, regarded it as an evil omen, and
This is not a church. It
Wow.
was
Why'd
never a
it cut it
church.
off right
And
there?
if you give me 3 minutes, I'm going
Oh,
to
I hate
absolutely
TikTok
turn
sometimes.
your world upside down and blow your mind. You may have heard about a strange story going around that we were a part of an advanced civilization that fell apart due to some kind of invasion, and that incredible buildings like these, surrounded by all these smaller buildings, are actually part of 2 completely different worlds and times. If you're under the impression that structures like these can be built in our modern times, think again, because they can't, and they haven't been for hundreds of years. There are countless buildings like this scattered all over the world that we repurposed as banks, churches, universities, and state buildings. You'll also notice that a lot of these buildings have the word founded etched in the side instead of built. That's because we found them, we didn't make them. So let's talk about what these buildings were really used for before we repurposed them.
That's weird.
It's becoming painfully obvious that our religions and our religious institutions do not serve us, and in fact were built to control us.
We're starting to realize that many of the stories we've been told about our religions have been twisted and corrupted to imprison our minds and our spirits. Well, it gets so much crazier and worse than that. Because these buildings were never churches. They were healing centers and amplification centers for our meditation and prayers to make our thoughts reality, word to flesh. The painted glass windows and all the geometric shapes were meant to amplify those frequencies outward and inward to heal us and create a protective force field around the building and around the empire. Going back to this picture, you see that circle right there? That's cymatics. Just go look up a video where they play sounds on sand and then the sand takes different shapes. It looks exactly the same as that. This architecture is a frozen masterpiece of music, which caused frequencies to emanate within and without to have all sorts of amazing and powerful effects. Yes, all the old stories of Atlantis and Tartaria are absolutely true, and you can see the evidence of it just by going to one of these churches. But it gets even crazier than that. Look at the domes here. Look at those little circular balls. These are conductors, okay? We don't have a cross or the moon and the star here, and there's a good reason why. I'm just going to put this ugly modern church in the background while we talk about this so this can really sink in for you. All of our religious symbols like crosses and moons and stars were actually just carefully crafted antennae. They were shaped that way to pull energy into the building. And now just think about how you have defined your entire life based on these symbols, defended them, fought other people over them, thought you were worshiping a god through that symbol. They are laughing in our face. And guess what? It gets even crazier in part 2 when we talk about the Orgon generator.
That was interesting. He had me to the end, and then he went off left field somewhere. I don't know. He jumped the fence. But yeah, it's weird that some of those buildings do say founded, and it's hard to believe that we can't build that. But you don't see those type of structures these days because it's a different generation. But yeah, that was interesting.
Unbelievably, President Vladimir Putin in 2013 made Tartaria maps public, and in 2017 he also gave a map created by William Blah of Tartaria to the former president of Tartarstan, also known as Tartaria. So how did William Blah have such a clear picture of this country if it didn't exist? We learn about the famous Egypt, the Persian Empire, the Ottoman or Roman empires, but all of this history is small in comparison to the Tartarian Empire, unless it isn't true and it's just a myth or a story. But you can find too many documents that state this region certainly did exist. The landmass and territory called Tartary and Great Tartary was a historical location in northern Asia that existed between the Caspian Sea, the Ural Mountains and the Pacific Ocean. Tartary was a blanket term used by Europeans for the areas of central, northern and eastern Asia, as these parts were largely unknown to European explorers. This is why the entire geographic territory was known simply as Tartary, and its inhabitants were called Tartars.
Recently asked if there's any story he is true.
I hate it when it does that. Tartaria, I don't know, man. If there is a Tartaria, then that means the world is probably flat, because we done made the world round, and everything above Asia is the North Pole. And Russia is the North Pole, so if there's a Tartaria, then there is no North Pole, and that means the world is flat, and there's more territory and land out there. So it's hard to believe, but yeah, let's back that up.
Were called Tartars.
Recently asked if there's any story he is truly scared to cover, and he responded with UFOs. He said there is a side to this story that gets so dark he couldn't even tell his own wife, and he said there's a spiritual aspect of it that he doesn't even understand, which makes me wonder, what the heck are they hiding from us? Just check this clip out.
Are there things that you're scared to cover? You're sitting there saying, wow, this is like soul crushing, like to the point where like it really scares you in your soul.
There are two. Yes, there are two. One is the 2020 election. The second thing that bothers me is the UFO story. And, you know, the more you dig into that and talk to people with actual knowledge of, there are parts of that story that I do not understand at all that are really, really, really dark. It's so dark that I, you know, haven't told my wife about it. I mean, I haven't verified any of this, but this is not just stuff that I read on the internet. I know you all are very, very grounded in that story, so I think I know, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff there that's just like, man, I'm not even sure what that means. There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand. So yes, that story bothers me. Part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far out. The implications are too profound. And so, and I understand that. Because I've heard things where I'm just like, oh man, I don't even really want to know that, honestly.
Deeply disturbing stuff. You know, forget like saucers
You know what I mean?
and technology. It's deeply disturbing stuff that I haven't even told Natalie. I agree with you. It's so disturbing. I can't even tell my kids. My kids ask me different stories about it, and I.
Yeah, it's hard to believe in that because you hear so much stuff about a fake alien invasion, and I mean, it's just weird. You see all these things flying in the sky, but who's to say it ain't ours? I mean, we created a computer that can communicate with somebody way over in Asia, and you look at me and talk to me at the same time. So who's to say that we ain't created something that zooms around the sky? Like, I mean, get the hell out of here. I mean, we're smart. We're very smart. We're smart enough to manipulate people. So to me, it's a manipulation. But yeah, if y'all like this, man, hit that like, hit that sub, man. It'd take my channel a long ways, and I'd appreciate it. But yeah, if y'all would, peace out.